I entered the Wells-Goodfellow neighborhood while heading east on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard from the city of Wellston. A drive down this street tells you everything that you need to know, not only about the current state of the neighborhood, but the current state of the city. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard was once a bustling commercial corridor full of shops, grocery stores, businesses, cafes, and restaurants, but as you can see, not so much anymore. Most of the buildings that remain have fallen into terrible disrepair. In fact, pretty much every main thoroughfare throughout the north side of St. Louis looks like this, as this is the side of the town where most of the decline has occurred over the years. If you've watched other videos of mine, you've heard me say this several times and you'll hear me say this again, as going off of percentages, no major city in the country has lost a higher percentage of its peak population than St. Louis has, including Detroit. St. Louis had a peak population of 856,000 back in 1950. Today, that number is estimated to be below 300,000 for the first time since the 1860 census count, and that's good for a population loss of 66%. The decline isn't going to be stopping anytime soon either. In fact, since 2020, only one city has seen a higher percentage of its population decline in this country, that city being Jackson, Mississippi. If you've watched other videos of mine, you've heard me talk about the reasons as to why things have gone so far downhill in the great St. Louis. The biggest reasons include deindustrialization, segregation, and the Great Depression. Make sure to watch other videos of mine, such as the one here in the top right corner of the screen, if you're interested in hearing more on the topic. That's after you're done watching this video, of course. Anyway, in modern days, the biggest reason for the continued decline is by far and away the crime. The taxes in St. Louis aren't really all that high when you compare it to other major cities in the country, so taxes aren't as big of a deal here as maybe they are in Detroit or Chicago. On top of that, Missouri is a very business-friendly state. Safety is a huge deal, though. St. Louis has overtaken Detroit as being the most dangerous large city in the country. Just a week or so before me uploading this video, there was a mass shooting in downtown St. Louis at 14th and Washington. The Washington corridor is a district where the city wants people to feel safe spending a night out on the town at. These downtown shootings, however, have been going on for a while, and people in the greater St. Louis area are starting to not want to spend their weekend nights in the city, whereas maybe they would have 5 to 10 years ago. St. Louis has recently been ranked as not only the most dangerous city to live in, but also the most dangerous city for domestic tourists. That's a shame because St. Louis has so much history and so much potential to be a special city as it has so much character and culture, but the only thing that most of us can do is wait and see if this place is able to address the crime issue and have a better future. Now, on to talking about the Wells-Goodfellow neighborhood, as unfortunately this area has seen some of the worst decline over the years, and the crime rates continue to be extremely high. Do a search for the Wells-Goodfellow neighborhood on YouTube and you'll see local news stories on demolishing 30 blighted buildings, a man shot and killed, 3 injured in a shooting, Friday night homicide, man shot and killed, man shot multiple times, man shot and killed, woman shot, double homicide. The negative headlines go on and on. It's sad and it's unfortunate, but it's the reality of the current state of the neighborhood. Now, jumping into the time machine as back when St. Louis was a thriving large city, the manufacturing industry is what gave the place life. Some of you might be surprised to know that the St. Louis market used to be in second place when it came to automotive production, after Detroit. In fact, there used to be a large GM plant just north of the Wells-Goodfellow neighborhood at the corner of Natural Bridge and Union. We'll actually be driving by the site shortly. Anyway, the Chevrolet plant at its peak employed as many as 35,000 workers. In 1980, the plant stopped production of the Chevrolet Caprice and Impala models. In 1981, Corvette production moved to Bowling Green, Kentucky, which is where Corvettes continue to be assembled today. The Corvette was assembled in Flint, Michigan originally before moving production to St. Louis in 1954, so after 27 years of the Corvette being built in St. Louis, that was a pretty significant loss of not only jobs but also pride for the community, as the Corvette might be the most iconic sports car in America. Even more damage, as in 1986, truck production moved to the brand new Wentzville facility, and at that point, GM abandoned the plant off of Natural Bridge and Union for good. Additionally, northwest of the GM plant was the St. Louis Ordnance Plant, which was constructed in the early 1940s. The ordnance plant is said to have employed another 35,000 workers, as the plant helped manufacture various products to help the U.S. during World War II. So between the GM plant and the ordnance plant, about 70,000 workers used to work here. Today, there's nothing near that number. With that said, here's an aerial photo dating back to 1941 of where the ordnance plant was about to be built. The aerial shot was taken on the far northwestern edge of the city while looking southeast. You can also see the former GM plant in the center background. I went a little bit deeper into that than I wanted to, but yes, the deindustrialization was the start of it all, as thousands of jobs were lost, and all of those workers used to live here, in Wells-Goodfellow and in the surrounding neighborhoods. Today, to say that Wells-Goodfellow is a shell of its former self is a huge understatement. I couldn't find an exact number, but it wouldn't surprise me if over 20,000 people used to live in this neighborhood. However, the 2000 census showed that just over 8,000 people lived here. In 2010, that number dropped to 5,800, or a loss of 28%. In 2020, the number dropped even further to 4,400, or a loss of 25%. So that means that Wells-Goodfellow has lost half of its population from just 2,000, and in 2000, when Wells-Goodfellow had 8,000 people, at that point it had likely lost over half of its peak population, which is an extremely dramatic decline that isn't seen in very many places throughout the U.S. And now, onto the crime rates, as Wells-Goodfellow sees a violent crime rate of 4,150 for every 100,000 residents, and a property crime rate of over 6,000 for every 100,000 residents. And that right there is why St. Louis continues to decline at a rapid rate, as most other north side neighborhoods share the same stats, and these days, even some of the south side neighborhoods are getting to be pretty bad too. As we turn the corner, to the right is the site of the former St. Louis GM truck assembly plant, which opened in the 1920s. Originally, the site was used by the Fisher Body Company before assembling various Chevrolet and GM vehicles until operation ceased in 1986. Today, the site is occupied by the Union 70 Center, which is a 160-acre industrial warehouse, and it's used by various companies. So far, we've been driving around the main thoroughfares that serve as the border for Wells-Goodfellow, but now we're going to make a turn into the neighborhood and see what more of the residential streets look like today. Within the hood are some hidden gems such as this church on the right up ahead, which is called St. James Missionary Baptist. You just don't see buildings being built like this anymore today. Also, if I had to live in the hood in St. Louis, I would want to live off of Cote Brilliant Avenue. I just like the name. Apparently it's French for Bright Hill, and apparently it refers to an ancient Native American burial mound that used to be somewhere along its path. With that said, I probably haven't said this enough throughout my St. Louis area videos, that documented history in the St. Louis area goes way back to the 7th century, or the year 600. Historians refer to it as the Mississippian culture. As a part of that era, there were ancient burial mounds that were built all throughout the St. Louis region. Some of them have been preserved and still stand today, while others are no longer here. In this video, you saw the Wells-Goodfellow neighborhood, and I talked about what made it once a thriving area with the nearby 70,000 manufacturing jobs that are no longer here. Additionally, the city has been segregated for a very long time, not just by race, but also by poverty. In fact, the greater St. Louis area is arguably the most segregated metro area in the entire country. Head 20 miles west into St. Charles County, and everything looks all good and dandy almost anywhere you go. You look around here, and it's a completely different story. Take a stroll down Union Boulevard or any of the other main commercial thoroughfares as we did, and it looks quite depressing. Additionally, crime has been out of control here for a very long time, and unfortunately it's only been getting worse. It's sad what has happened to not only Wells-Goodfellow but also the rest of St. Louis, as the city has some of the richest history in the country away from the coasts. Regardless, I do end the video here. And do me a favor, as if you enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, as doing all of those things helps these videos destroy the evil monster that is the YouTube algorithm. Also make sure to hit that notification bell and select yes, so that you can be notified every time that I upload a new video. If you enjoyed this video, then you might enjoy checking out some of the featured playlists on this channel. Videos with amazing insights on other places like what you saw here can be found in my St. Louis playlist or in my American Hoods playlist. Last but not least, if you can't get enough of me on here, you can always go follow me on my other social media accounts, and those links are below. We'll see you next time. Peace.